This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi and continuing coverage of the case against Rex Heuermann.
The Gilgo Beach killer allegedly is Rex Heuermann. You know, that's what he is accused of being the man behind the name of. So what's going on with that? When is the trial? What evidence do they have against him? How damning is this case? There's a lot of questions that still linger. We're going to try and go through all of this today to get you caught up on basically what happened, what it means, and what's next in the case of Rex Heuermann. So let's go back to July 13th of 2023. 59-year-old Manhattan architect named Rex Heuermann, who looked more like an insurance adjuster with a dark past than any Hollywood version of a serial killer. He was plucked off Midtown Street by Suffolk County Police. Why? Because allegedly he was the man they'd been hunting for over a decade. Remember the Gilgo Beach murders? String of bodies dumped like garbage along the south shore of Long Island? Authorities believe Rex Heuermann is the man responsible for at least 7 of those victims. All women, all believed to be sex workers, all found in similar chilling conditions. Originally, Heuermann was charged with the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. Then, a bit earlier in 24, Maureen Brainerd Barnes was added to that list. And then by the summer of 24, the list ballooned to include Jessica Taylor, Sandra Costello, formerly known as Peaches, and Valerie Mack. So we're now talking about 7 murder charges spanning from 1996 to 2010. It's a long time to have that hobby, I guess. I have hobbies, but I don't know that I've had one from 96 that I'm still practicing, other than Satanism. I'm kidding.
Ew. Careful, dude.
Kidding. Just kidding. Started in 96 after I watched an unsolved mystery. No. That's a long time.
It is. It's a very long time.
The timeline alone, yeah. The guy allegedly operated for over a decade and a half undetected. And what did cops find once they turned his Massapequa Park home upside down just the other year? Well, an arsenal of 280 guns stashed in a hidden basement vault. Again, why does one need 280 guns? Is that not just like an immediate sign of a mental illness right there if you have that many and it's just you? I mean,
That's a very good question.
If it's just you, and it's not like... I mean, I understand maybe like you inherited your father's collection or there's reasons one, I guess, may have that if you have a very gun-loving family and you kind of are the one that ended up with them. It's another if you're like seeking them out to that level. I mean, I think there's a level of paranoia there, I guess one would say, if you're getting that many guns. And I'm not an anti-gun person. I'm not saying you can't have a gun. I'm just saying 280.
That's excessive. I think I've got 9.
Might be one of those, see something, say something things at 280. Not that anything's going to happen, but he did have a lot of guns that were unregistered. You have 9? Yeah. I have...
I do. Now that I've got a couple hunting rifles. I have a couple of shotguns. I've got a few handguns and an AR-15.
I have 4 that I can think.
And you can only use one at a time, really,
I've been practicing with my toes. I have a little contraption rigged up in the basement here where I can drive around and I can shoot the handguns with my toes, and I have the AR and the shotgun in the other 2 arms.
Nice.
I look like something out of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like the video game or something. You get beat up with the nunchucks or Bart's skateboard until you start blinking fast enough and explode. I I think that's maybe what people are afraid of sometimes when you have 280 guns, that's going to happen. But more chillingly, they uncovered deleted computer files dubbed a planning document. Sounds innocent enough. It allegedly outlined a methodical blueprint for targeting and disposing of victims, as if this were some sort of construction project. The digital trail was damning. Burner phones used to contact victims traced to the same cell towers near his home and Manhattan office. And then there's the hairs. Hairs recovered from burlap used to wrap
That's the
victims.
biggest problem to me. That's the one that sticks out the most.
They got their hairs on the burlap?
Yeah.
Yeah. They matched Heuermann through advanced DNA analysis. And not to be outdone, female hairs found on several victims were genetically linked to his wife and daughter as well, who just so happened to be out of state during the murders. Coincidence? Sure. If you believe in serial killing fairies. And let's not skip over the Google search history, casual things like why hasn't the Long Island serial killer been caught, or the more stomach-turning torture redhead porn.
Who does that?
Rex Heuermann.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Talking about hundreds of searches that practically scream, I'm the guy you're looking for. And that's that one search there. Oh, that's tame compared to what else he had on his hard drive. The digital footprint combined with hair evidence, the burner phones, witness descriptions of his now infamous Chevy Avalanche, is why prosecutors say they've got their man. The taunting calls to Melissa Barthelomy's sister, made from Manhattan. Where did Rex work? Midtown Manhattan. The Avalanche seen at Amber Costello's, registered to Heuermann. The pizza crust that gave up his DNA, tossed in a Manhattan trash can, is not so much a web of circumstantial evidence. It's a steel cage, basically. And I don't know if you know this, but if you want, Stacy, you can be the owner of Rex Heuermann's Jeep.
No, wasn't it a oh God, that vehicle that, oh come on, Chevy Avalanche. Wasn't it an Avalanche?
No. Well, yes, that was. But right now, his Jeep is for sale.
Ew.
If
he did it, there's Jeep. Been bodies in there, so it's basically a hearse.
It is a World War II Jeep. Oh, it looks like maybe they took it off of eBay. Maybe it's gone now, but it was up for a little while. And his attorney was allegedly the one that was selling it.
That seems like a weird conflict, unless he's just trying to get some money because there wasn't anything.
There might be. But the thing is, I'm trying to find the listing here so I can read it to you. I don't have the listing text in front of me, but the listing, when I did look at it the other day, it did note owned by the infamous Rex Heuermann. It was put up as a selling point in the description, which I thought was really shitty. As a way to... I mean, the only way I could see that, I don't even know. I mean, unless you're going to put that money towards... like the victims' families or something. I don't think you make that a selling point of the Jeep. But
that's just gross.
I digress. So I don't know if it's still up there, but it was for sale the other day. And it did make note of the previous owner of the Jeep. So what what all does this mean? What's next? Well, the case isn't just about chasing a killer. It's about righting a systematic failure that led families and left them in the dark for over a decade. For years, the Gilgo Beach case, it was a cautionary tale in police incompetence, internal corruption. Yes, we are looking at you, former Chief Burke, and the collateral damage of institutional ego. The moment a new task force with actual coordination and the FBI's involvement took over, things moved fast. The fact that authorities have now tied Heuermann to 7 victims signals one thing. They believe he's the Long Island serial killer, and if it's true, it means one man managed to slip through the cracks using nothing more advanced than burner phones, a truck, and a knack for staying quiet. No dramatic standoffs, no unhinged manifestos, just a guy with a suburban house, a vault full of guns, and a compulsion to allegedly kill. Prosecutors say the case is unified by commonalities. Sex workers as victims, lured through online escort ads, murdered when his family was away, and dumped in eerily similar manners. The burlap wraps, the disposal sites, the timelines all form a pattern that Heuermann allegedly fits like a glove. And in his obsession with the investigation itself, searching victims' names, law enforcement strategies, and serial killer techniques, you've got not just behavior consistent with guilt, but arguably obsession. This case is also testing the bounds of courtroom science. The prosecution is trying to get the DNA evidence admitted that relies on cutting-edge whole genome sequencing, a method that hasn't been widely accepted in New York courts yet. So they're in the middle of a Frye hearing, which is basically the court asking, is this science or sci-fi? The defense is calling it magic. The defense also thinks Rex Heuermann is innocent and wants it tossed. But it is not sci-fi. It is science, and it has been used in other cases. It's just new, so everyone's scared of it. And they're also arguing that the charges should be split up. According to the defense, trying all these murders in one courtroom could bias the jury, because hearing about 7 bodies instead of just one might tip the scales. But prosecutors are pushing for a single trial, saying the murders are part of a serial pattern that needs to be understood together, not piecemealed apart. At the core of all of this, the legal wrangling, is the weight of the evidence. It's not just that strand of hair, one search. It's all of it in its totality. You got the hair evidence in multiple scenes, multiple burner phones, digital fingerprints, search histories, vehicle sightings, physical evidence, disturbing sexual fixation, and planning documents. So there's that. There's a lot that's taking down Rex Heuermann.
Mm-hmm. The part that really concerns me was the spreadsheet that he has. Like the task, like when he would go allegedly do something, he had a checklist of what he would need to do.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I have a checklist right here for things I need to do for work. Some things I need to do personally, but none of it. I mean, I need to post a couple of things. I need to work on our weekend programming. I don't have down here that I need to hydrate so that I can wrap up bodies, because wasn't hydrate on there or some weird thing or?
Oh yeah. Hit harder. Small is good. Inspect vehicles before and after, destroy incriminating files, and change tires. All sorts of things on his to-do. And it was very, very mechanical. There was a lot of basic stuff on there too. It was like hydrate. It was like, what? Like you need to remember that part? But when you have the mind of a monster and you kind of think in that sort of way, I guess you got to feed yourself the programming with like the normal stuff in life, because the evil comes naturally and the normal doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
As of July of 25, Rex Heuermann is still behind bars with no bail. His defense team is playing procedural chess still. The next court date, that's coming up around July 17th, where we should get major updates on whether the judge will allow the new DNA methods to be presented to a jury. The decision's going to be a big one. If the DNA gets tossed, that weakens the case, not fatally, but enough to create some wiggle room. If it's admitted, Heuermann's goose is looking extra crispy. And hanging in the balance is whether we get one big trial or 5 individual trials. The judge hasn't ruled that yet. The defense is begging for separation, arguing that the burlap killings of the Gilgo Four are different from the earlier dismemberment-style murders of Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack. Prosecutors, however, say the timeline, victimology, and method show clear evolution, not distinction. If the judge sides with the prosecution, we'll get one massive spectacle in court. I want, if that was one of, your loved ones, I don't know. I mean, are we grouping them all together for convenience? Are we grouping them all together because they were sex workers? If these people, one worked, one was an accountant, one was a bank teller, one was a homemaker, and one was a CEO or something, would we be having 4 different trials, or would we be having one big one?
That's disturbing, because a human is a human.
Yeah.
And I don't care what they were doing for livelihood or what brought them there. They didn't deserve this ending. Nobody deserves this ending.
And
so whoever did this to them deserves to fry.
And I don't know, because I can see it from both ways, where this could be stronger for the prosecution, it could be stronger for the defense, depending on how much evidence there is on each individual case. If there's, weaker on maybe one of the murder cases, but it looks very much like Rex Heuermann, and you want to get the conviction on that one too, you're probably better off pulling them all together. If they're all weaker individual cases, or, then you're better off doing them one by one if you're the defense. But if you are the prosecution and you are intermingling some in here that are weaker than the others, you could also look at it. The jury's going to go, well, there's a lot of weak evidence over here, and you're saying we should believe this. Why should we believe that over there? You get juries that will discount stuff as well based on weaker evidence in maybe one of the murders versus the others. So that's a tricky card. I can understand the argument to separate the 4 and the other 2, because they were very different murders in terms of what happened. So, okay. I mean, I can see that, but I don't know. There's a lot of ways. They got to be very strategic, because there's not necessarily a right or a wrong for defense or prosecution on this. They both are going to have to weigh their options and see where they think they're going to get a better chance at conviction here, because, it can fall apart pretty quick. There's a lot of ways this could go south. Investigators are still combing through Heuermann's digital stash. There's over 24 computers, dozens of hard drives, multiple cell phones, and other devices were seized. When you look at Rex Heuermann, he doesn't strike me as a computer type guy. He strikes me as a guy that might still be using the AOL discs from the front of a Kmart in 1996.
Oh, God.
Let's put another one in.
Serious?
30 free days or 10 hours, whatever comes first. I mean, the man was basically
a flashback.
Yeah, he was running kind of a digital horror museum in his basement. Any overlooked trace of victim communication or disturbing behavior could bolster the case even further. And there's also the possibility of more changes. I mean, there were 11 victims originally discovered in the Gilgo area. Only 7 have been tied to Heuermann. Authorities have publicly stated they're still examining links to others, including the Asian male victim, the toddler and her mother, and the infamous Shannon Gilbert. So don't be surprised if this thing balloons again before it actually sees a jury. Let's talk about the jury. Good luck finding 12 people in Long Island who haven't heard about the case.
That's going to be a challenge.
That's going to be a difficult thing when it actually gets to trial.
Those people were terrorized by this story for decades.
Yeah. But it should make it to trial unless we see a Heuermann plea.
Could we have another Brian Kohberger issue here?
Well, I mean, it does happen.
I don't think so. I think this guy is arrogant enough, and I think he wants to go through with it. I think he wants people to have to prove that he's guilty. He strikes me as a very difficult gentleman. I'm not going to call him a gentleman. Difficult guy. I mean, remember what he did to, was it a secretary when she was on a cruise?
Yeah. The stalking.
This is a weird guy. He's not going to just fess up and go, I did this.
Well, and he's older too. And Kohberger, I think there's a different outlook on life there, on what one would want to do in those situations. Kohberger had his life still ahead of him if he didn't get killed. Heuermann doesn't look like the healthiest dude. Prison's probably not going to work out super well for him. He may want to fight this and give it the dice a roll. He really has nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah, at this point, he's missing out on some time in his life.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's about the only thing he could get back if they found him not guilty. And I guess it's going to depend on how strong the evidence is, because the hair, that's a big thing. If the genetic way they're looking at this, and I don't remember the exact title, if that gets thrown out, that could be a big issue. And this could be one of those cases where suddenly the guy that everyone knows did this gets a pass until they get some other piece of evidence that gets him pulled back in. But I don't know. Stranger things have happened. That's the latest on the Gilgo Beach murders. No court date yet. Probably next year is going to be my guess. We'll find out more on the 17th. It should be an interesting hearing. Give us your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube. If you're not there already, just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. You'll find it right there. And press subscribe wherever you're watching us or listening to us, whatever podcast platform, so you don't miss any of the cases that we cover for you right here. Until next time, for Stacy, I'm Tony. We'll talk again real soon.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed, only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.